Good morning, welcome back to the Junius Maltby channel. News broke yesterday and I posted it on the Junius Maltby community page on Google Plus if you guys follow that or are part of that communication network there on Google. And it was regarding Iran stating that they were ditching the US dollar. You know, they've made claims of it in the past. Sometimes countries say one thing and do another and don't follow through with it. But apparently this is an official move. It is official. They did, in fact, ditch, the U.S. dollar and everything that entails. I myself disagree with what the mainstream media is reporting as the primary reasons for it. Of course, the mainstream media wants to use and keep the quote what they're calling a Muslim ban in the news as much as possible, even though we can somewhat conclude that it's not, in fact, a Muslim ban. It's a ban from specific countries that the Obama administration warned the Trump administration about, and it only represents about 13% of the entire Muslim world. So it's not, and it's, anyways, we don't want to get into the entire debate that involves the quote Muslim ban. However, we'll just call it a travel restriction for now. In response, the media is saying that in response to that, Iran is ditching the U.S. dollar. Now, I don't buy it. I believe that this battle that's being waged between Iran and the United States is because there's still an infection in the U.S. government of course, the neoconservative movement, the neocons, the warmongers, those individuals that were part of the document back in the day, the Project for the New American Century, renewing America's defenses, and kind of painted the Middle East as this target, this battleground that they wanted to seize in order to maintain our dominance on the planet and our control over the resource-rich, oil-rich Middle East. It's similar to the big game that took place between Russia and England back in the 1850s when there was the fight over Afghanistan then, and the big game they were jockeying back and forth. The Middle East is basically this place where all the superpowers kind of vie for influence and try to assert their dominance. Now, this statement that Iran just officially ditched the dollar, major blow to the U.S., and here's why it matters. There's some articles coming out. It was originally broke by Forbes. Obviously, if Iran is holding a lot of dollars and they ditch it, that could cause a problem. But one of the big things is they export oil, and oil is denominated in dollars, so this could create a problem for Iran as well as the United States. Here it says, however, the decision to drop the dollar could prove to be complicated for Iran, given that its most important export is oil, which is priced in dollars. The country is on course to earn $41 billion from oil sales this fiscal year. Switching its reporting to another currency will add a degree of currency risk and volatility and is likely to complicate matters for the authorities. At this stage, however, it is not clear how they will deal with this issue. Well, they have plenty of options. There's many currencies out there. They could switch to the euro, to the rubles, to the rupee, to the yen, the yuan. Who knows? It's up to them. If you remember, we've discussed this also in the past. There was talk years ago about a lot of these Middle Eastern countries coming up with their own currency, and they were going to have a gold-backed dinar. And it was going to be kind of a network, or, there's the European Union. It was going to be a union of Arab and Middle Eastern countries that would have one currency, and it would be a gold-backed dinar. It would be Libya, Tunisia, I believe, Egypt, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Jordan, the UAE, all of these different countries. And I don't believe that's gotten off the ground. And I think there's a lot of Western influence that discourages that from happening, because that would be a major competition, especially in the currency market. I mean, if it was backed by gold and oil and the productivity and the commodity base in the Middle East, that would be a really strong currency. especially if it was redeemable for gold, which I believe they wanted to do. I mean, if you were out in the currency market and you were looking for a stable, solid currency, a gold-backed dinar would definitely be a good option. So we'll have to keep our eye on this. This is pretty fresh news. Where it's going, anybody's guess. The metal prices today, let's take a look. They're up a little bit. Could it have something to do with this scenario that's playing out? I don't know. But we've got gold up. We've got silver. On this chart shows that it's down a little bit, but it was definitely up this morning. And here's another one you look at. This is from CNBC just about 15-20 minutes ago. Silver up 8 cents. Gold up $2. A couple headlines that I pulled regarding some predictions for the two metals going into this year. We've touched on these over the last few weeks just because it's the early and beginning part of 2017, so you'll get a lot of articles about predictions and where things are going. The path won't be straight, but gold's bullish trajectory is set. This is an article talking about gold having potential 5% upside still this year. And a lot of the numbers you're seeing on there match up with things we've discussed earlier, especially with the LBMA outlook calling for about $13.50 this year for gold. We covered that just the other day. A lot of discussion regarding 2017 being an eventful and unpredictable year with a high degree of geopolitical uncertainty. We are seeing that, a lot of tensions here domestically and abroad. Of course, they mentioned the more nationalistic U.S. president, America first, which I agree with. Sorry. I like that policy. I like that statement. We've got the Brexit coming in Europe, and of course the predictions of the European Union just falling apart. And there was another article about that yesterday discussing the EU not having a future. Of course, there's going to be some large swings, but overall, we're going to see gold rise throughout this year. Silver price touching a 3-month high even as SLV shrinks. India adds 12.5% tax. Gold reclaims 2/3 of the Trump dump. Now, this is something I don't really think about or talk about often, but the relationship of silver with India. And silver prices hit 3-month highs, and gold rose to the highest in 11 weeks against the dollar on Thursday as world stock markets stalled near record highs amid news of new U.S. President Donald Trump slamming down the phone on key Pacific ally Australia Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull. Silver bullion rose to a fresh 12-week high at $17.70 an ounce as bond yields fell and commodities held flat overall. Still some 16% below last summer's 2-year highs in the wake of UK's Brexit referendum shock. But I want to get to the part about India. With no mention of gold, meantime, yesterday's new budget from the government of India disappointed dealers hoping for a cut in India's 10% import duty and a higher threshold for purchases to need reporting to the tax authorities. Instead, the new union budget added 12.5% tax to all silver bullion, including coins, in what Finance Minister Arun Jaitley's department called an anti-avoidance measure to follow the shock demonetization of India's largest banknotes last November. So silver demand in India was exploding. Remember, we don't touch it too much in too much detail, but India passed some draconian measures to control currency and eliminating large banknotes. They're trying to steer people around who are trying to avoid taxes in the country. You've got a lot of Indians buying gold, so they're slapping tariffs on gold import. They did an import ban at one point on gold, and they were having to sneak gold into the country. So of course, naturally, the next best bet and the next thing you're going to turn to is silver. So as India was trying to control the population of where their money was, they just started buying silver. So you saw a silver demand spike in India. As tax and curbs on gold imports rose over the last 5 years, India's silver investment demand rose more than 4-fold, almost matching the United States. World-leading private purchases of coin and before easing back, according to data from specialist analysts Metals Focus. So we saw a huge demand grow in India because of those measures. If that continues, that could seriously change the silver market and drive silver prices much higher. The more India, a nation of over 1 billion people, the more they turn to silver as another precious metal to place their money into, the more pressure we're going to see on an already tight market for silver. As many of you are aware, the demand and consumption of silver is lately typically outpacing supply. You throw India into the mix and that could change things up dramatically. That's definitely a factor that plays well on the side of silver that I have not considered or even contemplated up until reading some of these articles and seeing this play out in India. So for those of you silver stackers out there, silver hawks, I know there's many of you on this channel that are big time into the silver. This should be a bright beacon of hope for that pile of silver bars and silver loaves and tubes of silver coins you have stashed somewhere. Because if India turns to silver and decides to start stacking it heavy and deep, as they do gold, you're going to see a major increase in silver prices internationally. All right, keep motivated, keep stacking, keep your eye on the news, keep talking about these conversations, and thank you for participating here on the Junius Maltby channel. I very much appreciate the motivation, the comments, the liking, and subscribing, sharing these videos, and just being part of this community. Have a good day.